So good day everyone, I'm Randy Clabicilias and I'm going to discuss the list section 3 contract for a piece of work. So matatackle dito yung Article 1713 hanggang 1731 of the Civil Code. Typically, cover yung rule ng governing contract for a piece of work. So ito yung contract, yung kontrata type involves ng isang party which is si contractor na nag-a-agree na mag-perform ng specific work or mag-deliver ng result for another party which is si employer in exchange for compensation. So let's start sa Article 1713. So sa Article 1713, by the contract for a piece of work, the contractor binds himself to execute a piece of work for the employer in consideration of a certain price or compensation. The contractor may either employ only his labor or skill or also furnish the material. So, ito yung kontrata for a piece of work. It is one where person binds himself na mag-execute a specific work for another with the work being completed gamit yung kanilang own skill or resources. Like for example, yung a carpenter, nag-agree siya na mag-build a custom dining table para sa client which is si employer. So si carpenter will use their own materials and tools, like for example. And then sa Article 1714, if the contractor agrees to produce the work from material furnished by him, he shall deliver the thing produced to the employer and transfer dominion over the thing. This contract shall be governed by the following articles as well as by the pertinent provision on warranty of title and against hidden defects and the payment of price in a contract for a sale of sale. So if yung work is hindi pa tapos due to the fault ng worker or ng contractor, hindi sila entitled para magbayad unless the incomplete work can still be used to the employer. Like for example, tailor is na-hired siya para gumawa, which is si contractor, para gumawa ng custom suit but na fail siya na matapos ito. Kapag yung client, if the client can still use the half finished suit for some purpose, partial payment may be due depending dun sa situation. Sa Article 1715 naman, the contract shall execute the work in such a manner that it has the qualities agreed upon and has no defects which destroy or lessen its value or fitness for its ordinary or stipulated use. Should the work be not of such quality, the employer may require that the contractor remove the defect or execute another work. If the contract fails or refuses to comply with this obligation, the employer may have the defect removed or another work executed at the contract cost. So sa Article 15 naman, the employer is may right siya para to terminate or para tapusin yung contract for a piece of work at will, provided they indemnify the contractor para dun sa expenses and work complete up to that point. Like for example, yung homeowners, nag-hire siya ng painter para mag-paint ng entire house but decide halfway through the project to cancel. So si homeowner must pay yung painter for the work already done and any materials purchased. Sa Article 1760 naman, an agreement waiving or limiting the contractor liability for any defect in the work is void if the contractor acted fraudulently. So if yung contractor nag-supply siya ng materials para dun sa work na gagawin niya, sila yung liable for their quality unless otherwise is nag-agree. So a builder construct a shed for a client using substandard wood. Like for example, a builder construct a shed for a client using substandard wood, which causes the shed to collapse. The builder is yung liable dun sa poor quality materials unless si client explicitly agreed to their use. And then sa Article 1770 naman, if the contractor bound himself to furnish the material, he shall suffer the loss if the work should be destroyed before its delivery, save when there has been delay in receiving it. So like, if yung materials are provided naman by the employer, si contractor is only responsible lang siya sa proper use and ensuring na yung work meets agreed standard. Like, an example is kapag yung a homeowner nag-provide siya ng tiles for a contractor to lay on the floor. If yung tiles are defective and na-break siya agad, the contractor is not responsible provided they installed them properly. Sa Article 1780 naman, the contractor who was undertaken to put only his work or skill cannot claim any compensation if the work should be destroyed before its delivery, unless there has been delay in receiving it, or if the destruction was caused by the poor quality of the material, provided this fact was communicated in due time to the owner. If the material is lost through a fortuitous event, the contract is extinguished. So, sa Article 1718, yung si contractor, hindi siya responsible for defects in the materials provided by the employer unless they had a duty to inspect and warn about dun sa mga defect. Like, for example, an architect gumamit siya ng steel provided by the employer. If yung steel is substandard and the architect know or should have known about it but did not warn the employer, sila yung liable. Sa Article 1790 naman, in this article, acceptance of the work by the employer relieve the contractor of liability for any defect in the work unless first yung the defect is hidden and the employer is not, by his special knowledge, expected to recognize the same, or the employer expressly reserve his right against the contractor by reason of the defect. So, kapag when work is entrusted to multiple contractors, each is responsible for their respective portion unless their responsibilities are explicitly joined. Like, an example, kapag a construction project hires a plumber and an electrician, if a plumbing issue arise, only yung plumber lang is liable unless there was negligence involving both parties. Sa Article 1720, the price or compensation shall be paid at the time and place of delivery of the work, unless there is a stipulation to the contrary. If the work is to be delivered partially, the price or compensation for each part having been fixed, the sum shall be paid at the time and place of delivery, in the absence if stipulation. So, dito na yung contractor, siya yung liable for any damage caused by delays or failure to meet deadlines unless due to force majeure or like yung mga natural disaster gaya ng mga earthquake or the employer's fault. So, an example, kapag si contractor na fails niya in deliver a commission sculpture by the agreed date, if the delay was due to their negligence, they may owe damages. So, dito naman sa Article 1721, if in the execution of the work, an act of the employer is required, and he incurs in delay or fails to perform the act, the contractor is entitled to a reasonable compensation. The amount of the compensation is computed on the one hand by the duration of the delay and the amount of the compensation stipulated, and on the other hand, by what the contractor has saved in expenses by reason of the delay or is able to earn by a different employment of his time and in industry. So, sa Article 1721, if naman the complete work is nawala or lost or destroyed bago pa man siya ma-delivered sa employer, the contractor bears the risk unless yung employer has delayed taking possession. So, like for example, a baker natapos niya na yung wedding cake, but it is damaged in the bakery kasi because of the accident, like for example. So, si baker, dapat he or she must replace yung cake unless the client delayed pick up. Sa Article 1722 naman, if the work cannot be completed on account of a defect in the material furnished by the employer or because of orders from the employer without any fault on the part of the contractor, the latter has a right to an equitable part of the compensation proportionally to the work done and reimbursement for proper expense made. So, yung payment is generally due only upon the completion ng work unless otherwise is agreed. Like an example, yung freelancer or the contractor which is agrees na magsulat ng article for a magazine. So they are paid only, binabayaran lang sila upon submitting the final draft. Unless yung kontrata specifies doon yung installment payment. And then sa Article 1723 naman, the engineer or architect would draw up the plans and specification for a building is liable for damages if within 15 years from the completion of the structure, the same should collapse by reason of a defect in those plans and specification or due to the defects in the ground. The contractor is likewise responsible for the damages if the life fails within the same period on account of defects in the construction of the use of materials of inferior quality furnished by him, or due to any violation of the terms of the contract if the engineer or architect supervises the construction, he shall be solidarily liable with the contractor. Acceptance of the building after completion does not imply waiver of any of the cause of action by reason of any defect mentioned in the preceding paragraph. The action must be brought within 10 years following the collapse of the building. So, in brief explanations, yung contractor, siya is liable for damages if the work collapse within 10 years dahil dun sa defect, poor construction, or because of the bad materials na ginamit, unless these issues were explicitly accepted by the employer. Like an example, kapag yung contractor nag-build siya ng house pero na-collapse to after 5 years kasi nga poor yung quality na ginamit, like poor quality cement. So si contractor, siya yung liable para ayusin yung mga damages. And then sa Article 1724, so dito, the article who undertakes to build a structure or any other work for a stipulated price in conformity with plans and specification agreed upon with the landowner can neither withdraw from the contract nor demand an increase in the price on account of the higher cost of labor or materials, save when there has been a change in the plans and specification provided. One such change has been authorized by the proprietor in writing, and the additional price to be paid to the contractor has been determined in writing by both parties. So, yung kapag daw yung employer is na-fails niya na mag-provide ng agreed materials or na-delay niya yung work, they may owe compensation for losses caused by the delay. So, like an example, yung na-hired yung tailor para gumawa ng dress pero hindi siya makakapag-umpisa because si client na-delay niya yung providing fabric. The client must compensate for any resulting losses. So, sa Article 1725 naman, the owner may withdraw at will from the construction of the work, although it may have been commenced indemnifying the contractor for all the latter's expenses, work, and the usefulness which the owner may obtain therefrom and damages. So, in a brief explanation, kapag yung work involves yung intellectual property or creative contribution, so si employer cannot claim ownership unless explicitly agreed upon. So, like for example, a graphic designer, gumawa siya ng logo. Unless the contract states otherwise, si designer retains copyright even if yung employer is nagbayad na siya for the work. And then next is yung Article 1726. So dito, when a piece of work has been entrusted to a person by reason of his personal qualification, the contract is rescinded upon his death. In this case, the proprietor shall pay the heirs of the contractor in proportion to the price agreed upon, the value of the part of the work done, and the materials prepared, provided the latter yield him some benefit. The same rule should apply if the contractor cannot finish the work due to circumstances beyond his control. So, yung changes ng work can only be made with mutual agreement. Additional compensation is maybe pwedeng required for extra work or modification. Like an example, kapag hired si contractor para mag-build ng one-story garage but the employer later request na ng additional floor. So, si contractor pwede siyang mag-demand ng extra payment. Sa Article 1727 naman, the contractor is responsible for the work done by persons employed by him. So, si employer, may right siya na mag-inspect ng progress of the work and masiguro yung compliance with the agreed standard. Like an example, si client, a client hires an artist para dun sa mural and visits the site regularly para mag-check ng progress and suggest ng mga adjustment. So, sa Article 1728 naman, the contractor is liable for all the claims of laborers and other employed by him, and of third person for death or physical injuries during the construction. So, ang brief explanations lang dito is na if yung employer is hindi siya satisfied sa work due to its poor quality, pwede silang mag-refuse acceptance and mag-demand ng corrections or reduction dun sa price. Like an example, a contractor nag-build siya ng fence pero it is uneven and unsightly. So, si client, pwede siya mag-ask for corrections and negotiate ng lower price. And then sa Article 1729 naman, those who put their labor upon or furnish materials for a piece of work undertaken by the contractor have an action against the owner up to the amount owing from the later to the contractor at the time the claims is made. However, the following shall not prejudice the laborers, employees, and furnishers of materials. 1. Payments made by the owner to the contractor before they are due, 2. Renunciations by the contractor or any amount due him from the owner. This article is subject to the provision of special laws. So, sa Article 1729 naman, yung contractor dapat must follow yung agreed specification kung ano yung napag-usapan or yun nasa kontrata. Deviation without the employer consent may result in liability or loss ng bayad. So, like an example, kapag na-hire yung isang chef para mag-prepare ng vegan menu but in-includes niya yung non-vegan ingredients. So, the client pwede niyang i-reject yung ginawa nung contractor, which is si chef. And then sa Article 1730 naman, if it is agreed that the work should be accomplished to the satisfaction of the proprietor, it is understood that in case of disagreement, the question shall be subject to expert judgment. So if the work is subject to the approval of a third person, this decision should be final except in case of fraud or manifest error. So if yung unforeseen events makes the works substantially more difficult or mas expensive, si contractor pwede siya mag-request ng revision of the terms. Like an example, a landscaper is nag-agree siya na mag-plant ng garden pero na-encounter niya yung mga unexpected rocky soil. So, pwede sila mag-ask ng additional compensation para ma-cover yung added work. And then, lastly, in Article 1731, He who has executed work upon a movable has a right to retain it by way of pledge until he is paid. So, yung work involving dangerous or hazardous tasks may require yung special precautions, and contractors are liable para dun sa mga injury caused by negligence. So, like an example, yung a roofer falls because yung contractors hindi siya nag-provide ng safety gear. So, the contractor may be liable doon sa mga damages. And that's all po. Thank you for watching. And thank you din po for listening. That's it.